participating in today's FDOT District 5 Roadside Chat series. I am Claudia Calzaretta, the Florida Scenic Highway Coordinator for FDOT District 5. It's really wonderful having you all with us today. These roadside chats were developed as a way to connect the byway community closer together by sharing this valuable information. And today's topic is an exciting one. Our guest speaker today is Lisa Roberts. Lisa became the Florida Wildflower Foundation's Executive Director in 2008. And under her direction, the foundation established its annual Florida Wildflower Symposium and the ever-popular Seeds for Schools, Viva Florida and La Florida Community Plantings Grant Programs. She launched a new website and the Wildflower Research Literature Database, and she also developed multiple publications and so much more. Before joining the foundation, Lisa worked at the Orlando Sentinel for many, many years as an editor and writer, and during which she often wrote about Florida's outdoors. And as a newspaper woman with journalistic sensibilities, she honed her ability to analyze and describe, and those that know her say that her standards for accuracy, balance, and clarity have been the gift of the foundation. And I do concur with that. So without further ado, Lisa, thank you so much for being our guest today, and it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Claudia. Karen, I guess when I need to advance, I'll just say next slide. Great, and thanks for having me here today. It's really a pleasure to talk about people who really support the scenic beauty of highways in the state of Florida. Little bit about us, and then I'll jump into our work with FDOT and scenic highways. But our mission is to protect, connect, and expand native wildflower habitat through research, education, planting, and conservation. And we do that throughout the state. We're based in Central Florida, but we work throughout the state on these initiatives. Next slide. And our largest initiative is education. We do a lot of work with wildflower tourism, promoting wildflowers on highways and the scenic beauty. We do webinars like this one. We have guest speakers and we do videos. We have a very active video channel on YouTube, youtube.com/FLA Wildflowers. Our website is the #1 resource of wildflower information in the nation on Florida. And then we have numerous publications that we have, including the 20 Easy Wildflowers magazine, which features 20 species of easy to grow wildflowers. And we also have information on growing wildflowers at home, butterflies, bees, birds, you name it, we are developing it. We go to events and festivals throughout the state, and we have a very active speakers bureau. Next slide. So in the classroom, we have developed under our education banner a Wild About Wildflowers activity guide, and this is really robust. It's got 170 pages of activities and lessons for the classrooms, and it's really easily adapted to after school activities, and teachers around the nation have actually requested it, but we give teachers in Florida the priority to use it. Next slide. And then our research program, we are studying how to control the weed seed bank. As many of you know, as if you've tried to plant wildflowers on roadsides, it's really not easy to establish without getting a lot of weeds. So in this study, we're actually testing soil inversion, where we take different types of plows out, and we have flipped the soil to actually bury the seed weed bank. And that project is going on in Lake County, and it's a 4-year project, and we're in year 2.5. We do also vegetation surveys. This fellow out that you see pictured is Dr. Jeff Norsini. He's one of our contractors, and he actually goes out and drives different routes for us so we can locate naturally occurring wildflowers and then write management plans to keep them out there. We also are establishing urban habitat corridors, and we are in the midst of a research project with Dr. Jared Daniels at the Museum of Natural History to build publications and also information on corridors and how helpful they are. Our object there is to work with municipalities so we can help them turn their multi-use trails into habitat corridors that wind through urban places. And we also support a student studying native wildflowers, a graduate student studying native wildflowers at the University of Florida every year. Next slide. So under planting and conservation is where you'll find our grants program. We have the very popular, as Claudia mentioned, Seedlings for Schools program. We have 500 or more school gardens established in the state, and teachers are very passionate about it. What we do is we send out, once they apply and they've been accepted to the program, they get seedlings. Actually, wildflower seedlings that they can put into their campus gardens, and that's what these students have done here. They're very hands-on, and it's a great time to take that curriculum we've developed and use it with these gardens. And I should have mentioned also our curriculum it meets Sunshine State standards, helps students meet their Sunshine State standards for grades 3rd and 4th, but it can be adapted to all sorts of grade levels. And then the Viva Florida demonstration gardens are actually community gardens that garden clubs, Florida Native Plant Society chapters, and anybody could really, any organization can apply to get the money to establish a demonstration garden of Florida native wildflowers and plants. And that is to show people the beauty of wildflowers, first of all, and then secondly, how to use them in landscapes. And next slide. But planting and conservation is really where we work very closely with the FDOT. We've had a long partnership with FDOT, and it's exciting what we're doing together. Next slide. So just a little bit of history about FDOT Wildflower Program. I don't know if you all know it, but it dates back to the 60s. And it actually predates Lady Bird Johnson's efforts to beautify roadsides with wildflowers all throughout the nation. Back in the 60s, there was a road project approaching Tallahassee, and there was sod to be delivered to that project, and that sod just happened to have crimson clover in it. And when it bloomed, FDOT got a lot of great comments about it and thought, well, gosh, this is such a thing. We should try more of it. So in the late 70s, a landscape architect was hired. His name was Gary Henry. And Gary actually, rode herd over the wildflower program, grew it, and worked with Scenic Highways to get the wildflowers out there, make opportunities for grants that could plant wildflowers. But they had, very different results. Sometimes they'd order seed from, Texas or New England, and they plant it, and, it might look good, okay for a while, and then it would just peter out. So they got to thinking, we really need to know more about what we're doing and how to grow these things, because there wasn't a lot out there, and there still isn't on growing wildflowers. We know a lot about growing our crops, our food crops, but we don't know a whole lot about growing wildflowers and native plants. So next slide. That's where this license plate came from. FDOT actually, Gary Henry had the vision for this license plate. And FDOT actually, back in the day, it was 1999 when they finally got the legislation passed. The department put up $30,000 to get this plate in place. And then the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs actually collected 60,000 signatures from people saying, yes, they would buy the tag. That is the first tag. If you advance it, please. Next. That's the first design. In a couple of years ago, we came up with this design because we wanted to really show the pollinator connection with wildflowers. And that is our state wildflower, which is Coreopsis. The pink one that you see is Coreopsis nudata. It is the only pink Coreopsis we have in the state. And we have about 16 species. The other one is Coreopsis leavenworthii, which is found all over the state, and its plant was in that picture I showed you of the FDOT partnership. Next slide. But that license plate has generated over $4 million for wildflowers in the state of Florida. FDOT is also on our website. The Wildflower program is now hosted exclusively on our website as a courtesy to FDOT. So if you go to our website, flawildflowers.org, you'll see FDOT up in the menu, and you can click on that and learn all about the history of the program, what its objectives are. You can see a copy of the current Wildflower program procedure, and also see fantastic pictures of all the good work going on to plant and to maintain naturally occurring wildflowers. Next slide. So why do we care about wildflowers? We have to go back to look at a little bit about how our state is developing. You know, Florida, Land of Flowers, got its name from Ponce de Leon when he landed in 1513. He named it La Florida because we like to think it was because he landed in spring near Easter. It was the Feast of Flowers time in Spain, yes, but there were probably bountiful wildflowers blooming in Florida. So since then, we've made a lot of changes in that habitat. And if you look at this map provided by 1,000 Friends of Florida, you'll see this was generated about 2016. Current land use is all the orange. That is our current land use. Well, the projected land use, you see a lot more orange in 2060, and that's if we continue growing the way we are. That means there is very, very much less so habitat, and I'm talking forests and fields and swamps, all sorts of habitat for insects and for vegetation that actually provides us a lot of different services. So next slide. So basically we're losing about 10 acres per hour to development. And that is because all these people are moving to Florida every day, up to 1,000 people, and we have to put them somewhere. And the basic development models that are being used today is to just sprawl out from our urban centers. So we're losing a lot of land, and we're gaining a lot of population. Next slide. That has caused something of a biodiversity crisis for us as well as for everybody else on this planet. The whole world is evolving in the same way, where we are developing our natural lands and you know, we're losing all this biodiversity. 52% in 40 years. That's a big deal. And during that population, during that period, the population doubled here. I'm not here, in the world. So just recently, there was a report out by the UN Globe Assessment and it's pretty stark. About 1 million plant and animal species are on the verge of extinction due to human activity. So next slide. And that is due to, in a great part of habitat fragmentation. It's habitat loss and fragmentation, and there are a lot of other factors that you know, bear on this, but habitat is one of the largest. So we depend on nature for to sequester carbon, keeping it out of the atmosphere, to produce our oxygen. You know, oxygen is good, and perform services like water filtration, all these things that they do. And we take these large habitats, next slide, and then we chop them into little bitty pieces. And if you were a mammal or an insect trying to live on that patch of land, you'd very soon be facing some really stark problems in terms of inbreeding and also all sorts of other things that'll go on in that patch of land because you're unable to move. So next slide. So why roadsides? They represent a great opportunity to help develop corridors where you know, not only insects but small mammals can move safely between these remnant communities. And they're open, sunny, disturbed sites, which is what wildflowers love. This is our state wildflower. It's actually swamp coreopsis. It's that pink one that's on the license plate. And that's on State Road 65. Next slide. So here's the fragmented habitats, and click next. And you'll see how the roads help connect those habitats. So anytime you have a road connecting those state parks or even agricultural fields, things like that, there's an opportunity to provide habitat that will benefit us as much as it benefits the insects and the animals that are using it. Next slide. So we also know that wildflowers create civic pride. You can ask any Texan about bluebonnet, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. And you know, in Florida, we have wonderful wildflowers, and we want people to know we need to start talking about them. They also can save us money. You know, especially when you use them in urban situations. You don't fertilize them if they're in the right place. You use less water, etc. They also, of course, boost the biodiversity for all the reasons I was just stating. And they create recreational value, especially along our scenic highways. They filter runoff from roads and remove pollutants, and they help pollinators travel and survive. Next. So, and why is that important? Because 85% of our flowering trees and plants depend on pollination. They need insect pollination or small mammal pollination. Mostly it's insect. Next slide. And we also depend on it for 30% of the food on our tables. Even though that's 30% of the food, pollination is needed by 85% of our crops. So those are very important crops. Next slide. They are beans, melon, squash, all the sexy vegetables and fruits that give us so many antioxidants. Even alfalfa hay, which is fed to dairy cows, so there's a connection to our dairy supplies. But you know, bees alone make a $2.1 billion impact annually in the state of Florida. Next slide. So that tourism value, as you know, with the scenic highways, people want to experience beauty, and you know, if there's a beautiful drive they can take, that's what scenic highways are all about. That beauty and that history that they'll find along the way. But it's also about wildlife viewing, because a lot of our scenic highways, especially in my area, are connected with our state parks or recreational opportunities where people can go to bird watch or to, to view, other wildlife, including, deer, and maybe catch a glimpse of a bear from a distance. But that generates, in 2011, which is the figures that we have for the last time a survey was done, $5 billion in revenue in the state of Florida, and 45,000 jobs were connected to wildflower viewing. But without wildflowers, there wouldn't be a whole lot of wildlife to view, because we're talking wildflowers are kind of the base of the food web. They're supporting insects and small mammals, which are preyed upon by other things, and it's a whole food web, and wildlife depends on it. Next slide. We have a lot of opportunities, because, as you know, we're very good at building roads. Right now in the state of Florida, we have more than 12,000 miles of roads just in the state transportation system. That's not including county roads. So there's a lot to work with out there. Next slide. So in 2012, we asked FDOT to do a study on the economic impact of vegetation on highways. And we found that reduced mowing is very, very apparent. Reduced mowing saves money. DOT spends about $15 million of your tax money and mine on mowing roadsides, just mowing. 30% of that can be saved if you implement reduced mowing. And when you reduce mowing in an area, you're letting the vegetation that's naturally there come back, like these wildflowers that are being mowed down on the back slope. DOT mows regularly a safety strip of about 15 feet off the pavement. No problem with that. I mean, that is what we need to do to keep our motorists safe. But what we do is we work with DOTs and counties to, make it apparent that the back slope can be mowed a little less often. Usually 2 to 3 times a year is all it needs on the back slope. And then we carefully time those mowings. Next slide. So I want to take a look at a case study here. We've been very active in the Florida Panhandle since about 2009, building a force of volunteers there, and I just want to share this project with you to, let you see how much can be done. Next slide. So what we wanted to do with this project was create what we called bio beauty. We wanted to change the approach to managing roadsides. Instead of planting wildflowers, we wanted to find them, and we wanted to, let people know where they are and how to save them. And we wanted we're a small organization, so we knew we needed the community to help. Next. So our objectives were to form a community of wildflower watchers, and then pass what we called wildflower resolutions in each county to reduce mowing, and then to enable those volunteers to work with their counties. And then also we wanted to continue to be at the table with DOT, at the state level to work on wildflower policy. Next. And here's one of the resolutions that was passed in the Panhandle. It's an example of what the wording would be. We have it actually on our website, and anybody can download it and get a resolution passed in their county. But what these volunteers do is they go to the county commissions and they say, we want you to, at least try a pilot project on several roads, and this is our permission slip for DOT. We're going to take this to DOT, and they're going to help us on the state roads in the county, state federal roads, reduce mowing. Next slide. So since we started, we've had a lot of resolutions adopted in the Panhandle. and mostly in District 3. We've got everything but one county, Liberty. And, we managed to get resolutions placed in Madison and Taylor as well in District 2. Next slide. And this is actually a page from our website that people who are interested in get these placed can go, and all sorts of resources on this page, including the model resolution that they can download. But you can see all those green counties are not just in the Panhandle. We're working all throughout the state to get reduced mowing in place and to protect wildflowers and do other wildflower projects. Next slide. So, and we were continuing to work with DOT on the state level, and while they were molding their new wildflower program procedure in 2014, they pledged to reduce mowing by 10%, and that version of the procedure also recognized wildflower resolutions as permission slips for the first time. Next. And then in 2016, we were at the table with FDOT when they updated the procedure to include pollinators, which was just wonderful. It was after a presidential memo from former President Obama that called for the federal highway system to really emphasize building habitat along roadways, and DOT just jumped right in and is doing a fantastic job. Next. So our project results. I usually hold up Santa Rosa County as our poster child because they just took this thing and ran with it. So we got the resolution that I showed you was from Santa Rosa County, and they managed to preserve 70 miles of roadside wildflowers in that county alone. And that photo that you're seeing is from Santa Rosa. That's an endangered pine lily. And when they started this project, there were only 2 or 3 to be seen on that roadside, and now there are dozens and dozens. So this stuff really works, and they're really dedicated to it. They estimated that they've saved their taxpayers $70,000 annually just by reducing their mowing. So that's about $1,000 per mile. Next. So we also in the Panhandle work with DOT to establish wildflower areas over 625 lane miles, which was a boost. And then we did pass those resolutions. Actually, one is in a city, and 15 are in counties. But we have one city, and I want to say it is Pensacola, that adopted a resolution. We also have established what we call the Panhandle Wildflower Alliance, and has 600 volunteers that watch the roadsides and are engaged in these projects. And they included multiple beautification projects, including this one that you see the kids doing. And that was along a multi-use trail. So we're working right now with St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge, or on the St. Mark's multi-use trail, to establish a demonstration garden there at one of the trailheads near Tallahassee. And also Calhoun County established a wildflower festival that includes, providing a map of their county sites to see in terms of wildflowers. And there are a couple of other projects that we've done nearby that are always featured in the festival. Next slide. Part of our tourism push was to get this pamphlet done. This is actually, if you fold this thing out, there's a map, which I'll show you in a minute, but one side has a complete, it's a big one. It's like 34 inches by 20. But it shows all the common wildflowers you'll probably see on the roadsides, names them, because people want to know what they're looking at. It also gives them routes. And it's available in all the Florida official Florida Welcome Centers, as well as regional tourism offices, and we pass it out events up there. And we want to do this for every region in the state. Next slide. This is a project that we started. This is how this map started. It was really interesting how it's grown. In 2010, we hired a couple botanists to assess certain roads south of Tallahassee, and you see those roads. I think it was State Road 65 and part of one of the scenic highways up there. I think Apalachicola area, and we also gave FDOT management suggestions for what we found there. And, usually they're very cooperative, take our suggestions and implement them. So we've had great success out there. Next slide. Here is the map now. So if you see the original area is one of the scenic highways, and the name is eluding me right now, but it's over there south of Tallahassee on the right side of the map. But if you look at the green snippets all over the map, those are actually wildflower routes. So these are places that you can go and drive and see wildflowers. And you can see over on the left side of the map, of course, Santa Rosa County's got a lot of green over there. So they're doing a great job. Next slide. So now what we're doing is we're taking that Panhandle model that we've developed with the Alliance, Panhandle Alliance, and we're launching an effort in North Florida in District 2. And we're calling it the North Florida Wildflower Alliance. We've already started working pretty extensively with Alachua County, which has a wonderful wildflower program already. We built a group of volunteers in Alachua they're very passionate, and that's exactly what we want to do in every county. We need county leaders in every county, and folks that'll just say, yeah, I'll go out there and I'll drive out there and I'll look at that roadside and make sure the mowing is happening the way it should, that there are no invasive species taken over, and they communicate amongst themselves, and then the county leader will communicate with the wildflower coordinator in each district, each FDOT district. So we want to do that in every county, but it all comes back to those wildflower resolutions. They have to be in place first, ideally. And then we've just completed 3 season surveys, spring, summer, and fall in the Big Bend region, and also along the St. Johns River to the Sea loop. Those were just completed week before last. Next slide. So that is pretty much a really quick overview of what we're doing, and what we're working for is for Florida and for you. We know these wildflowers are beautiful. I mean, this scene right here is just so beautiful. And when I'm up in the Panhandle driving I-10 or I-75 and even I-95, there are certain seasons in certain areas that are just gangbusters. They're just beautiful. But I love to get out on the back roads, and that's where a lot of our opportunity is with these projects. So now I'll open it up to questions.
That was a fabulous presentation, Lisa. Always engaging. I've always loved wildflowers, and something I've learned along the years is that some wildflower seeds that might grow plentiful in the north of Florida doesn't necessarily grab hold in the south. So there's different seeds that do well in different areas in the state. I want to let everybody know that in the chat box, I went ahead and put Lisa's website, floridawildflowers.org. I got the link there. And I also have the Central Florida Scenic Byways YouTube channel link there as well. Once we're done today, this presentation will be posted on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go look at it or share it with those that weren't able to make it today. So I'm going to jump into some of the questions that we've got. One question from Paul says, when applying for a community garden, does the location have to be accessible to the public? And could it be a gated community?
No, it has to be accessible to the public, and it has to be on public land. So, for instance, if you wanted to do something at my city hall, or one of the parks of my city, I would go reach out to that city and get them on board. Or if you want to do a roadside, that's an option also. We've had folks that have done roadsides up in the Gainesville area. We don't plant a lot on the roadsides anymore because we feel like our best opportunity is to protect and let multiply the things that are out there naturally. They're occurring there naturally.
Yeah. I was really intrigued with the way you presented the fragmented habitats. I never really thought about it, but that was a great visual where the state roads or local roads connect the different habitats, and having wildflowers in between them brings the pollinators from one locale to another. That was a great eye opener for me. Lindsay says, you have to admit bluebonnet sounds better than tickseed.
That's true.
I would agree with her. And Paul has a great question. Are beehives allowed to be placed near wildflower areas along DOT roadways?
I did hear of a beekeeper who was working with DOT down in South Florida to get hives placed near or on an interchange. And I think it was an interchange. It was safe. I mean, I know DOT is really about safety, as we are. And hold on a minute, I'm getting a call. So let me silence this. Yeah, there are places there they may be accessible. I think the best place for beehives would be close to the roadside on private land.
Yeah.
But I say reach out to your wildflower coordinator to find out if that's possible.
Yeah, that's a great question, because putting that on private property right off the right of way, it would be a win-win. The situation we run into with state roads is that some of the bigger roads like interstates are on what we call limited access right of way, meaning the public cannot actually get on the right of way for safety purposes and walk along. So, for instance, like I-4 or I-75. But the other arterials might be a possibility. So I'm going to look into that a little more. So another comment question we have is FDOT used to provide small wildflower seed packets for distribution to scenic highways. Do you anticipate these seed packets might be available in the future?
Yes, we have unfilled packets. What we need are volunteers to fill the packets, and also supply is sometimes difficult because we use Florida native wildflower seeds to fill those, and they're not always available, unfortunately, from our wildflower seed co-op.
Right.
But if you're interested in packets, please email me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So Michael asks, will there be a wildflower conference or symposium this year in 2021?
That's a good question. We usually have been doing it in spring, and since spring has passed, our next symposium will probably be taking place in 22.
And I've been to your symposiums, and they're wonderful. I had a good time. Okay, another question. Can you talk more about Wildflowers Resolutions, and how could a scenic highway get involved?
The resolution is on our website. If you go to flawildflowers.org/protect, and you can actually download a copy of the resolution, take it to your scenic highway board, and ask them to get on board. What you need to do is to approach a sympathetic county commissioner and ask them to present it to the commission. I did that successfully in Volusia County, and they were, it's a feel-good thing. It's hard to be against wildflowers. So they're very receptive usually. Some do have questions, and if there are any questions about how to put this in place, we can put you in touch with, we have a contractor who serves as our regional Wildflower Alliance liaison, and she can kind of walk you through all the steps. But we also have those on our website, and with a lot of reference materials too.
Excellent. So Paul asked, monarch butterflies are listed as endangered or threatened. Does this program focus on butterflies?
We don't focus per se, and actually the monarch butterfly is not listed as endangered or threatened yet. And actually, FDOT has entered into an agreement. It's a CCAA, the conservation agreement for the monarch butterfly. It's an agreement that actually will probably keep the butterfly from being listed. And there are certain advantages to it not being listed, because when something's listed as endangered or threatened, it gets very difficult to do anything that you need to do. And for instance, in a habitat or along a roadside, your job, it becomes just more complicated. So what we've done with DOT is during these surveys is we expressly look for Asclepias, which is a milkweed, which is the monarch's host plant. So in the Big Bend survey that we just did, we found a ton of milkweed in a location that hadn't been reported before. So we immediately told DOT, and what they do is they go out and they manage that area to keep that milkweed out there. That usually is done through reduced mowing. And when you reduce your mowing, you let the plants grow, you let them flower, and then you let them seed, and then that plant can spread, and that population gets larger and larger. So there's all sorts of advantages. Oh, and I should say, our program doesn't expressly focus on butterflies, but we do work with Dr. Jarrett Daniels at the Museum of Natural History. He's a butterfly expert. And of course, we are always looking out for butterfly habitat.
Excellent. We have some wonderful links in the chat box. I encourage everybody to take a look at those, and you should be able to have access to those after the meeting as well. Bob Fink just attached one on monarch butterflies. And of course, Lisa's website is there as well. They offer a fabulous newsletter that I get in my email, and I can't wait to get those because it's chock full of information and links to their website. I could spend hours on it. So please take a look at those. Again, I want to stress that this recording today will be posted on the YouTube channel, Central Florida Scenic Byways, and it'll be there in perpetuity. So let me see if there's any more comments. We have one more. Does each FDOT district have a wildflower coordinator?
Yes, the list is actually on our website. If you go to the FDOT pages, there is a list that you can download of who the coordinator is and all the contact information for that coordinator. And how we work with those coordinators is that when we recruit a county leader, that county leader becomes the person that is going to talk to that coordinator about what's going on in that particular county. We don't want to inundate them, but we do want to make them aware of any problems or not problems, but concerns and or opportunities there may be out there.
Excellent, excellent presentation today. So I wanna offer any more questions, opportunities for comments from you all before we finish. I think you know, the wildflower program and your organization and the Scenic Byways are one of the feel-good programs that the DOT offers. So we've getting a lot of kudos and thank you. Let's see. For any future, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, nothing. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm so glad you asked me to do this. It's always so fun to talk about what we do.
I love it. Okay, so if anybody has any recommendations for future roadside chat topics, feel free to email them to me or give me a call, and we will look into it and see if we can bring that to you. So if there's no more comments, again, we're getting more thank yous and appreciative comments to you, Lisa. And thank you, Lisa, for your participation and joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.